Good morning, everyone. Here we are, Ball Cap Bible Study. It is Monday, October 13th. Okay, even though a lot of the state of Oklahoma is not feeling good, I am feeling good. Attitude is everything, right? So we're going to have a good time today. We're going to study we're going to keep on our journey through Acts, walking down that road. We're hitting things that maybe your pastor doesn't hit or you haven't heard recently. I try to find little nuggets for you. Okay, we're in chapter 6, and we're only going to look at one verse today. So this will probably be pretty short, but verse 7, and I have some questions. I think verse 7 challenges us, and that's what we want. We don't like it necessarily, but a little bit of pressure is a good thing. That's what gets us out of bed in the morning, having to pay bills and that kind of stuff. So let's look at verse 7 and then see if it applies to you, or to us. All it says, now this is after the deacons are selected and before Stephen is stoned and killed. It's like a bridge verse that connects these two stories and narratives. So the word of God continued to spread. The number of disciples in Jerusalem grew rapidly, and a great number of priests became obedient to the faith. Okay, three things we want to focus on. This will be brief, a shorter version of Ball Cap Bible Study than you're used to. Oh, I forgot to introduce myself. If you don't know me, my name is Wade Cruz. I'm the pastor for senior adults at Quail Springs Baptist Church, and I just love getting to do that. Okay, so number one, the Word of God continued to spread. Um, have you yourself ever felt stagnant or like, you know, we hit the pause button or something, either in life or in your church or whatever? It happens sometimes, but when stuff is churning, things are moving, that's what you want. The Word of God. The question is, why did the Word of God continue to spread? And then number two, the number of disciples in Jerusalem grew rapidly. I would suggest that that doesn't happen by accident. There's some intentionality to that. So think about it. There's the Word of God is spreading. Well, somebody has to spread it. Okay, it's not doesn't come through, ESP or telekinesis or whatever. And then the number of disciples are growing. Well, the disciples have to be discipled. So all of this is happening with intentionality. And the number of priests became obedient to the faith. Um, that means the church that was already established, the Jewish faith, the Old Testament understanding of God, um, they became obedient to the faith. Those leaders, their paradigm shifted. What caused that? That wasn't an accident. That they were impacted by the external intentional forces for good, for spreading the gospel and making disciples. Okay, so the word of God continued to spread. Where are our challenges? That's hard to say. Where are our challenges? Um, are you a spreader of the word of God? Some people spread dissension, some people spread negativity. Are you that encourager? Are you that person that coaches people up? Are you that person that looks for the scriptural solution to things instead of the worldly solution? And do you bring that godly dynamic to bear? Um, are you helping people in their time of need? Do people come to you? When they're hurting and that kind of thing. So the word of God continued to spread. The number of disciples in Jerusalem grew rapidly. Wow, that's intentional. Um, if you're one of my, and I have a bunch. If you're one of my friends that's a teacher or a coach or whatever, are you a walking testimony? Are you engaging or sponsoring or helping with a FCA, Fellowship of Christian Athletes chapter? Are you, what is it that you're doing on your job site or within your own family dynamic, or do you pray before the meals? Are you actually discipling people? Um, and discipling, I think we, especially churchy pastor people, they get in their head that discipling, is this, you got to meet in a room at the church with three or four of you and go through a Bible study or somebody's devotion. That's not true. Um, one of the biggest influences in my life, she watches this uh, video every week. And Mrs. Ferguson, you know who you are, but she discipled me by the way she carried herself, her her countenance, and her you could see the beauty of Christ in her. I mean, she role modeled, she discipled with her life, and I would challenge all of us to do the same thing, because people can read you pretty quickly. I know they can me. So um, the word of God continued to spread. That was intentional. Number of disciples in Jerusalem grew. That was intentional. They were discipling. Um, they were. I'm not saying you don't study the word of God. You do, and you help people through that. But the again, you come with the scriptural worldview when you approach things, and other people see that. Okay. And then a great number of priests became obedient to the faith. That's important. Because pastors, priests, whatever you want to call them, call us, you know, um, you don't put them on a pedestal, because there's only one perfect guy, and they crucified him. They're human, they're people, they're going to mess up. you know it's like my dad had a saying, how come you never see a pastor called to less money? So they have sinful nature just as well, and for them to become obedient to the faith, that's important, because especially 2,000 years ago, not unlike some today, uh, their thing was the tradition and the money and the family business and all that. So yeah, be careful. Red flags are when um, you know you hear somebody say, and this is my wife, the co-pastor of this church, or um, I'm going to retire and hand this off to my son. I mean, that's just pharisaical in a lot of ways. So all right, that's enough of that. That's our challenge. Are we part of spreading the word? Are we part of disciple making? And are we having any influence on our church leaders? We should. We pay their salary, so we should be praying for them. There's an old saying. I'll quit with this. A great number of priests became obedient to. Here's this old saying: if you want a better pastor, pray for the one you have now. All right. Have a great week. That's a good challenge. Let's try to do those three things and see what happens. I'll see you next Monday. Bye.